one of the most important events that took place after World War II ended took place in the city of Nuremberg, Germany. It was there that the Allies put 22 of the top surviving Nazi leaders on trial on various charges related to what had taken place during the war. The Big Three, Winston Churchill, Franklin Roosevelt, and Joseph Stalin, had met several times during the war to discuss what would take place once the war was over. And one of the topics of discussion had been the issue of accountability for the Nazis. Winston Churchill had a very simple solution to this. He just wanted to shoot them all, line them up, shoot them just like they had done to the Jews and other prisoners, and be done with it. It was Franklin Roosevelt who insisted that it had to be handled a different way, that trials needed to be held, to be shown that we weren't just like them, for the world to be informed of what had gone on in a fair and balanced way. And so in the fall of 1945, 22 of the surviving leaders of the Nazi government and other parts of the Nazi state were put on trial. The trial lasted for nearly a year. The United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union each provided one judge for the panel, as well as one alternate judge. They also provided several attorneys so that all four of the powers were going to be represented by this trial. The chief prosecutor was a Supreme Court justice from the United States, a man by the name of Robert Jackson. And Jackson prosecuted as the lead attorney. There were basically four charges levied against the defendants. The first of them was the conspiracy to wage aggressive war. The idea that they had, without provocation, attacked other nations and destroyed the settlements of World War I. The second charge that was levied against most of the defendants were crimes against the peace, the breaking of peace treaties, the initiating of war, things of that particular nature. The third charge that was levied against the defendants were war crimes. These are crimes that were a violation of traditional warfare, things like the use of slave labor, the bombing of civilians, reprisals taken against civilian populations, the mistreatment of people that they conquered, things of that nature. And the fourth charge, probably the most unique charge in a lot of ways, were crimes against humanity. These were the charges for the concentration camps, for the death camps, for the actions of the Einsatzgruppen. All 22 of the defendants pled not guilty to the charges. Many used some defenses we will talk about, but they talked about the legality of the trial, they talked about following orders and things of that particular nature. And so the trial was held. Ultimately, most of the defendants were found guilty, but not all of them. Over the next few years, there were other trials as well, usually by individual countries, not another panel of the four powers like took place in the original Nuremberg trials. Germany tried some of the survivors of the Nazi government on their own, but Germany was trying to rebuild its nation. It was politically unpopular to raise these issues and to continue this, and furthermore, with the politics of the Cold War interfering, the Germans were more worried about maintaining alliances and who they were accountable to in terms of the major powers than prosecuting old crimes, and so Germany very quickly dropped out of this process. There were 12 trials organized by the United States. The Soviets, the British, the French didn't want to join in these trials, and so they really weren't involved in very many trials after the Nuremberg trial itself. In the case of the United States, though, we had heard of various other actions being taken during the course of the Nuremberg trials and the investigations that were done, and so we felt obligated to put a certain number of other people on trial. The first trial after the Nuremberg trial was for the doctors. We had heard about the role of doctors in experiments, whether it be Joseph Mengele and the twin experiments at Auschwitz-Birkenau, or other doctors who were involved in various experiments against people throughout the Nazi realm. And so a group of doctors was put on trial as a group. Then there were other groups that were also brought into this, lawyers, judges, and so on. Less and less publicity occurring as these trials took place, more and more defendants being acquitted, and so the entire